Your nephew, and the Honorable Councilor Paul Krikorian. We have a full committee. Probably we're meeting all day. We started at arts at 8:30? Okay, so without jinxing the agenda, we might be able to move on this relatively quickly. What we could do is we'll go through the consent really quick, and we'll look at what's on consent and continued. So one we'll call special. Only because we want to hear the council district's recommendations. Do we have any cards on one? Okay. Two will continue to July 6th. Three, we can move on consent. Four, we can move on consent with conditions as modified. Do we have the conditions on record? Great. Five, we will continue to plumb on July 6th. And council, hopefully July 16th. My understanding, our director is not here today, so we will pass that up. And then seven, we have a special, and I believe that's closed session. Is that correct?
Yes, Councilor.
Okay, so seven is closed session. And we do have one card on public comment. But on number one, 15, I wanted to move to concur with the Housing and Economic Development Committee on May 12th. That's a 2010 action, and approve the CEO recommendation from the May 11th report. But I believe there are some recommendations for District 15. We'd like to hear. Are they here?
Good afternoon. Frank Hong with the Office of Councilwoman Janice Hahn. Last minute discussions with planning at this moment has altered our initial request of a parking district as discussed with your staff. And maybe Alan Bell or Michael or Grant can comment on this further, but I believe in our discussions that we will just be asking planning to provide a report back, basically echoing some of the comments made in the previous CAO and CDD report on looking at amending the zoning code to provide for this reduction in parking.
Okay, so I want to be very clear. Mr. Moore, want to come on up? So we're going to follow the report from Housing Economic Development Committee and approve the CAO recommendations. But there was something else regarding the parking district. Is there anything else, or what would you like to share with the committee here, sir?
For about the last year, our office...
Please identify yourself for the record.
Alan Bell, City Planning Department. For the last year, our office has been working actually with your staff on a parking management overlay district, which is enabling legislation that would apply on a citywide basis, and you could apply that overlay anywhere in the city and modify the parking standards. We think that you could either go up or you could go down from what the citywide standard is. What we would propose to do, since we have received a number of requests from different council offices to have modified parking standards in addition to Council District number 15, is that we go forward with this citywide enabling legislation and at the same time the implementing ordinance for it for those districts where we have received motions to deviate from the citywide standard. So we'll take care of two birds with one stone. We can take care of those council districts that want to have a modified parking and all, in CD1, in CD15, and then also in CD7. We'll batch it all together. It'll be much more efficient, and then we'll have that tool on the books going forward for any council district.
Okay, and that will align with the program that District 15 is trying to realize?
Yes, and for various technical reasons, the ordinance that we're proposing is going to be easier for building and safety to implement. The one that's currently on the books has not ever been used before. It deviates from the usual procedure that we have for establishing overlay zones. And so we want to stick to the tried and true method that we know is going to work rather than using this untested procedure that's on the books right now.
Okay. Madam Attorney, did you have something else?
Just a comment, if you can amend your motion, item 5 of the CAO report dated May 11th should state to request Planning Department with assistance from the city attorney
Okay.
rather than to instruct the city attorney's office to do that.
And that's on item,
It's number 5 of the CAO report dated May 11th.
okay, that's another subject, okay. Okay, thank you, Madam Attorney. Okay, did you understand what's being suggested? Are you okay with that?
In consideration of the department's concern with resources and providing a solution to, again, other council districts' issues as well, we are okay with it, but we would just ask that, again, that Plum, request that this parking management overlay district be expeditiously pursued. Just to give a perspective of the issues that CD15 is encountering, much of our district has been developed under state enterprise zone benefits. So we have a lot of businesses that you cannot provide parking for, that now a lot of our businesses are in non-compliance, and they cannot do changes of uses, they cannot open, and we've had several businesses come to us now with hardships. The only answer is a slew of zone variances, which we do not think is equal because, this is how our city has been developed. And so if we are to consider the hardships of other districts and trying to figure out a citywide solution here, then we would ask that this committee keep the department moving forward in coming
Mr. Mayor,
outcome.
how long will it take before we can implement?
Well, our enabling ordinance is 90% complete, so we can finish that within less than a month. At that point, it would just simply be up to the Community Planning Bureau to then translate that into specific regulations for specific geographic subareas.
Does it still have to go to commission?
Both would go to the commission at the same time. So,
Anyway,
yes.
so we're
commission-
not losing time.
Right. We would put them on parallel tracks, so the commission could take action on both ordinances at the same time, and they would go to the Plum also at the same time.
So given the representative's concern, how long does that area stay non-compliant? Is it non-compliant now, given what you stated? It's non-compliant now?
Yeah, and this unfortunately was a unforeseen. The state enterprise zone actually expired last year. We applied for a reapplication. Unfortunately, San Pedro, the harbor area, did not win. We are applying this year again, but unknowing to us, ZMIS, all these maps, everything kept showing that we had the state enterprise zone. Currently, you're right. They are in non-compliance. And
Okay, because I want to make sure it's clear and very transparent that we still have to go through planning commission. Then from planning commission, it'll move forward, come to council, and knowing how far behind they are, they could be anywhere between, 6 months before it comes back to us? Do you think?
I mean, we'll try to get this on the commission's calendar, both ordinances. I can't speak for community planning, but we can try to get both ordinances on as soon as possible. Once the commission acts, it goes directly to Plum. And then it goes to the city attorney's office to prepare both ordinances for form and legality.
So wishful thinking, maybe 3 months if we're really lucky, 6 months more realistically, right?
3 to 6 months, if
Right,
it's
okay.
expedited, I think is a reasonable period of time.
Okay, I just want to put that on the record and make sure that everyone's aware how long this would take. Okay, thank you very much. So that takes care of item number 1, and Roberto, what's left?
And you made the amendments requested by the city attorney, right, to the CAO recommendations?
On which item?
Item 1, we made the amendments, right, to...
Right.
Okay. The next item, Councilman, is item 7. It's a closed session item. It's a city attorney settlement report relative to a lawsuit of Venice Stakeholders Association versus the California Coastal Commission.
Okay, we do have one card for public comment. Maybe we should address that public comment. Just a minute, sir. It's Electra Kruger. So we can take out the the public comment part of it. Hi, good afternoon.
Thank you for your consideration. Yes, my name is Electra Kruger. I'm the current president of the Shadow Hills Property Owners Association at 10544 Mahoney Drive in Shadow Hills. Unfortunately, I will be out of town on June 15th. That's the date that the case for the Lopez Canyon Truck Driving Academy has been scheduled to be heard in Plum, so I do respectfully request that you bear with me today. You may remember that I addressed the full council in public comment a few weeks ago on the same subject. At that time, I described how the M&D failed to meet even the most basic of CEQA requirements for the environmental review, the requirement to address all impacts associated with a project, both off-site and on-site. The Academy addresses only on-site impacts, although a full half of the project, the behind-the-wheel training, is scheduled to be off-site, and a major portion of that is scheduled to take place on local roadways, which, by the way, they absolutely refuse to designate. While it may be understood, or let it be please understood, that no one opposes the Truck Driving Academy in concept, only its proposed location, that essentially an industrial use to be placed in the midst of an open space zoned area atop the now closed Lopez Canyon landfill designated to eventually be available for passive recreational use, and this by the variance process. To approve this project would set an unconscionable precedent that would place all of the very limited open space within the city of Los Angeles at risk. This project fails to meet even one of the 5 required mandates to be granted a variance, an example being such variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right or use generally possessed by other properties in the same zone or vicinity. The Lopez Canyon landfill is bordered by 2 low-density rural equestrian communities, by the Angeles National Forest, by 2 mobile home parks. Anyway, what we do ask of Plum is that they require the applicant to research alternate industrial zoned locations, something that they have admitted to not having yet done.
Thank you, sir. Madam Attorney, we do have one public comment card for item 7, it's closed session. Should we take that now? We have one public comment card on item 7. Should we take that now, before we go into closed session? So on 7, we have one card, and we have Mr. David Bush. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi. My name is David Bush. I'm a homeless person. I live in Venice and sleep on the sidewalk there. I have many friends who have RVs. In closed session today, you're going to hear a proposed settlement between the Venice Stakeholders Association and City of Los Angeles and the California Coastal Commission. And the settlement was just made public about 5 days ago. People in Venice, you have about 200 homeless people. You have about 50 to 100 people living in vans and RVs. And the neighborhood council has been working for 3 years, and especially the last year, very diligently to try to come up with an alternative for people living in RVs. The settlement that you're looking at is going to impose a 6-month crackdown immediately upon implemented on everybody homeless who's living in an RV or vehicle in Venice, and it offers no alternative. The city of LA right now is under a federal injunction forbidding them to arrest people like myself who sleep on the sidewalk. And I think if you approve the settlement as is, I've already spoken with several attorneys, and we're going to be seeking an injunction to forbid the implementation of this settlement, as it'll violate the people in RVs' right to have a place to live by reason of necessity. So I think you're opening up, if you rush this through without giving the Venice residents a chance to implement some alternatives, you're setting yourselves up for another lawsuit. I urge you all to take a real close look at that. In addition, the Coastal Commission, the part of the suit aimed at the Coastal Commission is kind of a nuisance in and of itself, because it seems to be aimed at overloading the Coastal Commission with paperwork from the Pacific Legal Foundation, one of these big publicity-seeking organizations that wants to limit Coastal Commission powers by teaming up with other municipalities to bring suits limiting the Coastal Commission's power based on nuisances. The nuisance named in the settlement is basically people blocking the sidewalk with excess property. The nuisance they're seeking to abate is property on the sidewalk. It's not RVs parking in Venice. So
Thank you, sir.
I think there's a lot of problems with that. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir. And we'll go into closed session now.